So we'll start off the year by talking about mental health and wellness. For many people, the holiday season can be stressful. And for many people, you're looking forward to the start of the new year to get a reset. For me, I'm not really big on resolutions. I feel that if you're going to make a change, you should make that change when you become aware of it. However, I do understand that many people enter into resolutions at the beginning of the year. For statistics show that most people, after about 21 days, will probably have stopped that resolution. So, why is that? I think many times people set goals without really having a plan. And especially with resolutions, I know that many times you're in a group and somebody says, "Hey, what's your resolution?" Whether or not you've thought about it before or not, you feel pressure to actually just say, "I'm going to do something." So, I would like to empower you with practical tips to help maintain those resolutions or goals that you set for yourself. For me personally, coming into this year, at the end of the year, I was gassed completely. I mean, coming off football season, especially a longer season with the playoffs and the national championship, and then going right into the holidays, I was very glad to be off work, but we were very busy traveling for Christmas and then going for somewhere for New Year's. That once the new year started, the last thing I wanted to do is start focusing on new plans and goals. So the way I've been spending these first few weeks is kind of disconnecting. You might have noticed that you haven't seen me on social media as much, but disconnecting to refocus myself and to really get reconnected spiritually, emotionally, physically, to get some rest so that I can really be effective in 2025. So, what we're going to do this week is do a compilation of some of my past guests that talk about mental health and wellness. Hopefully, this will be helpful, getting your mind prime for a long year. Don't forget, even if you are off to a good start, these 12 months long. If you're not off to a good start, you still have 11 and a half months to go. Don't give up on yourself. Give yourself a little grace. Also, I want to shout out two listeners to this podcast that I didn't even know existed. It's been funny during this week. Two people that I had no clue that they were podcast followers came up to me and introduced themselves and said, "I really appreciate the work you're doing. You're doing a great job with this podcast," which is just reinforcement that you never know when you share your story or when you do something of this nature, write a book, you know, do a podcast, do a blog or a vlog. You never know who's following you. You never know who you're impacting. So that's encouragement for someone who thinks that your voice might not be needed. It really is. So hope you enjoy this episode. Hope you have a great week. And I look forward to continuing to connect with you in the future.
Your own level of self-worth should be defined from within rather than kind of watered by the people around you.
Don't get too high or don't get too low,
Hmm.
because the same people that are praising you, and you will learn this as you get into your career or you're dealing with an employer or with a hospital system or whatever it may be, especially dealing with patients. They'll pat you on the back one day. This is my doctor. He is great. And then the next day, you're terrible. So if you're on that roller coaster with them through this emotions, it's going to be hard to be able to do that, especially when you're dealing with sick patients the same way. One day you feel like a savior when you heal somebody. And then the next day someone dies and you go down in that hole, it's hard to stay level. So I think that's very important.
Everything that you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear, because fear stops us from doing so many things. So if you can get past or on the other side of that fear, you can achieve absolutely anything.
My favorite is, I give up being perfect for being authentic. And I think that goes hand in hand with what you said, because so many times we want to do everything perfect, and we get stuck in that, trying to be perfect instead of being who we are. And most of the time, if we are who we are, that's all we need to be, right?
Absolutely.
We get stuck being perfect, trying to check the boxes for other people, and that can be paralyzing. It can be detrimental to whatever you're doing, from family life to success or business, medicine, whatever.
Evaluate what's important to you and then make small steps to work towards that. It doesn't have to involve quitting your job necessarily. If it does, awesome. I'll see you in the entrepreneurial world. Power to you. But there might be other avenues to do that as well. What would your 90-year-old self do? Choose that.
So there's a leap, but you need to be taking baby steps as well, right? You need to be figuring out, okay, today I need to do this, so tomorrow I can do this. Like you said, when you're sitting with a laptop and there's no boss in the room, what do I need to do to make sure I go from A to Z and being organized with that? You don't find yourself miles away from your center. You slowly drift away. And many times that's because you don't have somebody holding you accountable, or you're not linked with a group, accountability group, or a therapist or whoever. Everybody needs somebody that's not just saying yes and agreeing with everything that you're doing, right? Everybody needs somebody to hold them accountable, no matter what it is in your life, on your job, in your relationship. And if you don't have that accountability partner, that's how we see so many powerful people just get so far in left field. And, like you're saying, how did they get here? Why didn't somebody help them? But without having that self-awareness, number one, to actually go to somebody and say, look, I am struggling. I need some help.
Encourage people to listen to their gut, that if they know something isn't right, they've lived in their body and their mind for their whole lives. Nobody knows you better than you, including any psychologist, psychiatrist. Nobody knows you better than you. So trust your gut if you know that you're not feeling your best. Consider who are safe people. Could it be your primary care doctor? Could it be a trusted coworker who has been open that they're in therapy? Just to know that there are other people in your corner, if you choose. Some people want to keep it private, that's fine too. And there are great directories online of not just psychologists, but other people in mental health. So that those letters could look like LCSW, licensed clinical social worker, LMFT, licensed marriage and family therapist, LPC, licensed professional counselor. The letters will depend on your state, but all of those people are credentialed to be able to practice mental health in some way.
If your mind is not in a good place, your body, it doesn't matter where you are, you're not going to be in your optimal state. So seek help when you need it, because there's a lot of mental health issues that addictions of all different forms that get dismissed or get just pushed away because you don't want to deal with, hey, I need to see a therapist.
Bigger impacts of traveling really come from pushing yourself into these unknown environments, into these unfamiliar and uncomfortable environments. So many benefits that I see from traveling that it's really hard to translate, to share.
I think the best way to sum it up is that if you are not mentally healthy, you're not going to perform at your best. And so taking the time to work on your own mental health and well-being will in turn help you perform better, whether that's on a quarter field, at work, in school, at home, managing your family. All of those things are impacted by how you're feeling as a person inside. And so the more mentally healthy you can be, the better you can show up for everyone around you.
If the athlete is not willing to do the hard work of rehab, he's going to remain stiff and weak and unable to perform to the top of his ability. So one of the most frequent questions I get is, Doc, when will he be ready to go back to play? And they want a straightforward answer, and it's definitely more complicated than that. I can tell you in this time frame, you should be getting better, but if you're not showing up to do the work, to do the rehab, to strengthen your muscles, to get back to the point, so if I put you in the game, you don't return to me injured again. So I can imagine that when I was going through the struggles of trying to pass this test, and I was praying to God, Lord, please just let this test pass me, Lord. Please put me back. My career is in jeopardy. That he was looking at me saying, son, you're worried about this test, but I'm worried about your life. I'm worried about when are you going to do the therapy to fix your brokenness, to fix your self-control, to fix all the things that you need, because I have a blessing for you that I need you to be ready for.